is the Pegasus Podcast, presented by Night Sports Now. UCF news, views, and a few hot takes. Now, here are your hosts, Bailey Go Knights Adams and Christian Charge On Simmons.
Welcome into episode 237. Be sure you're following us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at ByCASimmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. You can also email us at PegasusPodcast@gmail.com. Did you just wave in the middle of the intro to trip me up on purpose?
I did. Because what I tried to trip you up, and I ended up tripping myself up, and I started laughing at my own thing, which is very on brand for me.
Yeah, that was a lot. It was funny because I was just about we have a little intro video that plays, and while the intro video is playing, I almost thought about just doing something stupid at the start of the podcast, and then I was like, that'd be weird. And then as I'm doing the regular intro, you wave, and yeah, I'm not sure what that was about, but yeah,
if you're listening on audio, you have no idea what just happened, and it was nothing interesting. I just waved at the camera like a little kid. I was like, hi, when Bailey was doing the intro. We talked about before we did StreamYard, when we used to record on Zoom, and it was like you press the button and it starts, and I would always try to mess you up somehow, just make some stupid joke or comment or noise, then press the button and see if I can because why not sabotage your own podcast? And I can't do that in StreamYard anymore because we have to watch the intro video first. So I was just trying to find a new way to get you off your game, and I came up with wave to the audience.
It worked because I was powering through it, but then in my mind I'm still like, did you just wave at the camera?
I was gonna say you had no reaction at first. It was delayed, and then 5 seconds later you just started laughing, and I'm like, did I do that, or is this something else?
I think it was just me thinking, one, why did he just wave at the camera, and two, was it on purpose or was that just a regular reaction of his? I don't know.
Can I bring up a personal thing that's happening in my life because it just happened right now, even though it does not have anything to do with this podcast or UCF? There are these planes that keep flying over my house, and I feel like I sound like a crackpot when I say that. And I don't know what the hell is going on. I heard them yesterday, and it was a very strange noise. So I went to the window, and it looked like two I don't know. It looked like little fighter jets from World War II, flying over my apartment, and they made that old timey plane sound. And I'm watching them. I'm like, that's weird. Just happened again. Just heard the noise while you're talking. They flew over again. If you live in the Orlando area and you know why I'm being assaulted by World War II era fighter jets, let me know.
It's the Shiloh Christian Syndicate. It runs deep.
Wow, that's like a Twitter joke within a Twitter joke.
So we've got a lot to get through in the podcast. So I'm glad we started with the first couple minutes of just hijinks. But we'll start here by we'll eventually get to the Arizona game, but we'll start here recapping yesterday's news. We had an emergency podcast on it, but in case you missed it or in case you skipped it and just wanted to listen to a regular podcast, a lot of things happened on Monday. Ted Roof was fired as UCF's defensive coordinator. Addison Williams was promoted back to his old position of defensive coordinator. He'll be calling the defense going forward. And Gus Malzahn gave up play calling, and Tim Harris will be calling the plays going forward. So I don't know if you want to rehash our thoughts on that, but for that, we talked about it on a 20-minute podcast. So go check that out.
Yeah, if you're looking for a deeper dive into that stuff, boy, did we dive into it yesterday. I obviously none of this is good. The season's in shambles and they're scrambling. Ted Roof was the most, Ted Roof getting fired was we called that a mile away. We were talking about in January how this didn't make sense, and wow, look at that, it ended up not making sense. And Gus, flip flopping on play calling is also something that, let's just rehash that really quickly. Hired in 2021, says I'm going to call plays for the rest of my career. Not exaggerating. That's a real quote he said in his first press conference. End of 2022 season, he announces he's giving up play calling because it's just too much for him. Midway through 2023, he takes back play calling because he thinks that Henshaw's not doing a good job. Now we get halfway through this season or 2/3 of the way through, and he goes, actually, no, it's too much. So, it's all a mess. It's all a mess. That's basically where we're at.
Yeah, you said none of this is good. I think it's actually very good, but it doesn't mean good things for the season.
Well, let me rephrase that. Obviously it is good. I actually don't know if the Ted Roof thing is good. I don't know. That was more of I'm not saying Ted Roof should have been the DC, because if you've listened to any words I've said for the last 9 months, I do not believe that. But I'm not expecting that to be an actionable decision that is going to improve the defense. The defense was improving. That was everyone's mad and I need to show I'm doing something, so we'll fire him decision was what that was. The offensive part of it, Gus giving up play calling, that may have more tangible impact, but we're just going to have to wait and see.
I hope so. Yeah.
The offense putting up 10 points on Saturday after that is going to be so fun. If we're basing what we want to happen just on how funny things would be, offense putting up 10 points would objectively be a very funny outcome.
if they put up 10 points, does he take play calling back, or does he just give it to Hinshaw for the next game, or do they just flip flop around?
That's what I wonder. Like, say that they literally put up 10 points against Arizona. Does he actually stay the course, or does he go to the presser on Monday and go, okay, I'm actually taking back play calling this week?
You kind of got a little bit the okay there. Actually, was he would say
you can go look back every press conference Gus has ever had at UCF. He starts it with okay, and I don't know why I find that so funny, but I always do.
Yeah, so that's a lot of news. Like again, if you want to see us talk more about that and talk deeper into that, you can check the emergency podcast from Monday's episode, whether you find that on your podcasts or on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel. Also, the piece of news we haven't talked about yet, because it just became official today or public today, that SJ Tui is leaving the Kingdom and he's taking a job at Oral Roberts. So that's another big change, like a bigger change than like the everyday, like you might not really think too much of it, but it's a lot. It is a lot.
Yeah. There actually aren't a lot of changes in the administration as big as that. I actually think we're really in this era where it probably goes athletic director, head football coach, person running your collective. I mean, it probably is. And level of importance, that might be it. Regardless of what you think about the Kingdom and what you think about how they've spent their money, SJ is obviously a huge loss, and it's coming at just a really inopportune time. It's one of those things that was going to hurt no matter what. I think we all knew that would happen eventually. As far as I know, I don't believe this is anything to do with the way things are. I think this was just the natural, what was going to happen. I mean, SJ just wanted to go do that, I think, but it's just when it gets painted as part of the larger picture of the way things are going right now, with the team falling apart and recruits leaving in droves and Gus making all these changes. And then on top of that, UCF's losing the guy who runs their collective. It further adds to the picture of nothing is going well right now. So that's a big loss. And I don't totally know how they're going to navigate that, as far as, I don't know. I don't know enough about the inner workings of what his relationship was like with boosters and everything else to know how impactful that will be on their funds going forward, I guess is the way I'd phrase that.
Yeah, I can't say I do either, but obviously, like you said, it's the person running UCF's collective, and with today's era of college football, that's a very important person. Yep. So it's a big loss, but we can actually move on to something you just talked about, about recruiting, recruits in the recruiting class jumping ship, and a little bit of an update here on where UCF's recruiting class stands, and also just kind of the general vibe of everything going on and how that's kind of impacting things. They had already lost Carl Jenkins Jr. a couple weeks ago. Christian Hudson, I think we talked about last week, flipped from UCF to Colorado after they hosted him for the Colorado game, and then he took a visit to Colorado. That all happened. But there's been more stuff in the last week or so. 3-star edge defender Tylen Lee flipped to Ole Miss. He had been committed since, I think, July. And then 4-star wide receiver Javon Boggs. He was offered by Florida State on October 10th, and he has now scheduled an official visit to Florida State next weekend. So that's, it's funny to me in a way where it's like 1 in 7 Florida State might end up flipping this guy because it's Florida State, and that just is not great. 3-star linebacker Cameron White reopened his recruitment, and he said this on Twitter, citing the current circumstance at UCF, which very direct. And then the one piece of positivity, I think, was 3-star cornerback Raheem Stroud tweeting "Locked in, go Knights." So,
woohoo! As everyone should know, tweeting "Locked in" #Go Knights is a binding commitment. So Raheem Stroud will definitely be signing with UCF.
That's pretty much his letter of intent.
Yeah, Cameron White, I believe his primary recruiter was Ted Roof, so that's not a huge surprise that he reacted that way. But listen, guys, recruiting is momentum based. It always is, and this is what happens. We were talking about this on podcast last year, that last season, year 1 in the Big 12, you could pull we need you to build, we need you to come in and help us be better, and that sales pitch wears thin in year 2 in the Big 12 and year 4 overall. It's just not hitting the same way, and it's not surprising that it's not. And this is where we have to move kind of a little more into, guessing work than what we really know. But I don't think it helps that one of the main talking points of UCF season has been, why aren't they playing any of the freshmen? I don't think that if you're like I said, I don't know this. I want to be very clear that that's not like something I heard, but you can't help but wonder. I mean, that was like part of what made UCF pitchable to highly rated recruits last year was that if you were a true freshman and you look at this team last year, and true freshman John Walker is out there basically starting. True freshman Randy Pittman is out there a ton. True freshman Braden Marshall. Like, you saw that guys were earning opportunities on the field, and you think, well, I can go there and do that too. And if you're a highly rated recruit in this class, you look at a team where The fan base is revolting. They're all mad on social media, and we know recruits are all on social media. They're chanting "Fire Gus" during games, and they're booing him at Spirit Splash. Young guys aren't getting on the field at all. The team's in shambles. It's not what it was supposed to be. They recruited over a lot of their young players for transfers who are playing badly but are still on the field. It's just it's all vibes based. And yeah, speaking of Javon Boggs in Florida State, if you're Florida State, you can pull this because you have 50 years of history and national championships to back it up. UCF doesn't have that. Florida State's a brand, whether they're good or not. UCF is not. And the vision is eroding. What do you think we've been talking on this podcast? That we're not seeing a vision, and recruits are picking up on that. And it's just recruiting is such a vibes, momentum-based thing. And once the momentum turns against UCF, we didn't even mention Caven Call's letter and Nakai Martinez tweeting and all that. It's just things are bad right now. And that's how you take a class that was very much a couple months ago looking like it was going to be UCF's first ever top 25 class in program history, and it's about to fall out of the top 40 if they lose probably one more guy.
Yeah, and it's funny. The Florida State thing is interesting to me because it's like if you look at kind of the wider landscape of things, and I don't know how they're going to be next year. I don't know. I mean, a lot has gone wrong for them this year, but if you're Florida State, you can say, yeah, things don't look good this year. We were undefeated in the regular season and won the ACC a year ago. If you're UCF, you say, oh, we're building something. And then you look back at last year and, they made a bowl game. Look back at the year before, a bunch of missed opportunities and winning 9 games. And it's like, okay, what am I committing to right now?
You're committing to the future of college football.
Not anymore.
They didn't say how far in the future. They just said the future of college football.
We've talked about it a little on the podcast, right? They've kind of
that's gone.
done away with that.
They've made
it's
no
still in the stadium, but it's gone.
Is it really?
I think it's on the wrap around. I mentioned it to Brian in week 1. I was like, oh, look, there it is. And he goes, I don't think they've updated that in forever. But yeah, it's I don't know. Like you said, it's vibes based, and like the vibes couldn't be worse. And this is making the vibes worse, I think, for the fan base, because it is like the one thing that Gus and this regime can like cling to is like they're recruiting really, really well.
Yeah.
But when you're not performing on the field, and like you said, when you're not getting to see those young guys get a chance, and now things are kind of turning the other way in recruiting, it's the last bit of, whatever. It's the last bit of everything vanishing. And you're like, all right, well, what do we have now? And
let's be clear that we're in a situation now where unless UCF dramatically recovers the season, which I don't even know what recovering the season would look like at this point. There's 4 games left. There's nothing they can
do.
Just
making a bowl. That would be the
bowl, I guess.
Thing.
Unless UCF does something dramatic, like wins all 4 of these and wins a bowl and ends up with like 8 wins somehow, which again, not happening. There's probably going to be more staff changes this offseason. I mean, Ted Roof was the warning shot, but obviously more changes will be coming if Gus stays as head coach. And recruits' relationships are with the assistant coaches. They're not with Gus unless he's directly recruiting a guy, which he really only has historically done with like the quarterback. So the rest, I mean, if you commit to blowing up the staff, which might be necessary, then the class is going to fall apart too. So this class is quickly sort of coming undone. And yeah, maybe if UCF turns things around, wins a few games, maybe that momentum shifts back towards them. Javon Boggs would be a huge loss if he flips, and that feels like that's the way things are maybe trending with him taking that visit. I don't know, but you're right in that has been the thing, right, in this era, is that no matter how bad things got on the field, you always could look to the future because you spend all summer with the Booms and the Sandhill Cranes and all that, and all these stars, and they're building something. And once you take that away, there really just isn't anything left for this staff and this administration to lean on to get fans interested in 2025 and future seasons.
Yeah, which feels really bad. It is.
It's very bad.
And when you look at, I think you and I did this actually the other day. We're just looking at the last few years of recruiting classes and kind of seeing like who they've hit on and who they haven't. They're as good as those classes looked at the time. There were a lot of misses in all of them. And I think was it the 2022 class that we talked about a couple weeks ago, how I think Caven Call left, was basically that whole class basically is gone. Like
that class you can go look up our podcast hyping that class up as like the future of UCF, because it really felt that way at the time. It was their first boy recruiting class ever. And it was Tommy Castellanos and Caven Call and Jordan McDonald and Nakai Martinez and Quan Lee and all these guys who fell into 3 categories: were good and left, weren't good and stayed, or just weren't good and left. Like there's just, I mean, it really is funny to look back on that class and how excited we were for it. And literally nothing came from it. Nothing came from that class.
I think that's why I haven't been feeling anything anymore recently with recruiting. Like, I mean, you and I used to talk about it a ton, and I know like we still do and stuff, but I'm sure you've probably noticed, like, I just am not as interested anymore, I guess, because one, we got excited and then nothing happened with a lot of these classes, or again, with recruiting these days and the way everything is, like the guy could be good, but he could only be here for a year. And so I think for me, it's just kind of been like, all right, let me just take a step back. And it's kind of the old, what everybody's saying is like, let me know who's on the team when the season starts. I don't know if I'm necessarily to that level, but it is kind of one of those things where I'm just like, all right, if these guys sign and get here, cool, well, then we'll see what happens then.
It was more exciting last year because, well, it wasn't falling apart midseason was part of it. And also because we saw the vision last year. We saw the plan. Mm-hmm. And this was, like I said, the biggest shock to me of when Gus Malzahn gets all angry and announces what a failure last season was and starts firing coaches and demoting Addison and Darren and hiring new guys and we're doing things differently is I thought last year was what it was always going to be. It was going to be a 6-6 or 7-5 season. They'd go to a bowl, they'd build. Like I thought last year was part of the plan. And honestly, that should have, in hindsight, been the first red flag when they had the kind of year that you expect them to have when they move up, a better year than any other teams had when they moved up. And his reaction was, we need to completely flip how we're doing everything. And that was the beginning of the demise of recruiting because they did have this great class built on a great class before that one. And their response was run some guys off the team who they don't think are going to be good and go all in on older guys from the portal. Mm-hmm. And that has blown up in their face in the most dramatic fashion this year. And what makes that even funnier is that was coming off a season where all their portal hits missed. All their portal guys missed a year ago, and they went and did it again. So I don't know. It was more exciting last year when it was part of a plan. This doesn't feel like part of a plan. I feel like we're in this weird limbo right now. We're all just waiting to see if Gus is going to be the coach next year. That's where it feels like we're at right now.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's actually kind of something you just said gave me a thought that I'm actually curious about now to see if it plays out this way. And I don't know that it will. But say that Gus is still around, assuming he's still around going into next year. I don't know. I don't know if they're just going to be inclined to go out and go after a bunch of portal guys again because they think that's what they need to do. But I almost wonder if they're like, all right, we're still we got to do some building here. We've lost RJ. We've lost a bunch of seniors, all these guys. And we're going to be a younger team next year. Maybe we don't go out and try to fill the team with as many transfers. I wonder if they'd be better next year. Like, I wonder if playing some of these homegrown guys and kind of coming together, I wonder if that would be a shift in strategy. And I wonder how it would look compared to what we've seen now.
I'll tell you one thing. I don't think they'd be better, but I think being bad is more palatable when it feels like it's towards something.
Yeah.
Part of what's made this season so hellish is that what you just said, these are all guys who aren't going to be here next year. It's like they're just bad for the sake of bad. It's a strange spot to be in. And I'll tell you a reason they're not going to go heavy in the portal this offseason, most likely. I don't think they're going to have the financial commitment to do so. It's no secret that a lot of boosters stepped up to help put this transfer class together at Gus and the staff's urging. And keeping Harvey, keeping Kobe, those took significant financial commitments. And from literally the actual boosters themselves tweeting how unhappy they are constantly, I'm not getting the vibe that they're going to be forking over millions of dollars this offseason to do it again.
And we talked about that early in the season about with the KJ situation. Is like, how hard is it going to be now to go to a booster and say, hey, we really want this guy. And they're like, well, you also wanted KJ who got benched 5 games into the season and we paid all that money for him. Like
yeah.
It's
and
just
boosters
let
things. That go if it works, right? Like every school is asking boosters to pay up for players who don't pan out. That happens. But if KJ hadn't panned out, but the team's like 8-4, they'll come back next year. But it's just what a disaster it's been. And I recognize that college football is so stupid that we're in a reality right now where it depends on the richest members of the fan base to like fund the team. And there's part of me that wants to see some of these guys' tweets and be like, what's the alternative? You don't give the money and they're bad next year. But if I were a billionaire, I would probably, be more focused on being able to pick uniform combos and get good players, which says a lot about me. But what's the pitch from UCF? I mean, with this staff, it just feels like trust is gone. I don't know what you're going to hear from a member of the athletic department or the kingdom or whoever of, oh, come on, we got to get this guy. What are you going to say that you didn't say last year? They're just going to look at you and say, you told me this about KJ. You told me this about all these guys. You told me this about the 4 wide receivers that I forked over money for you to bring in, and then none of them turned into anything.
Yeah, no, it's not a good spot to be in, and it's why I do wonder if I don't know. And the timing of all of it would be confusing to me because it's like I don't know. What we talked about on the podcast, like, is Gus going to get to the spot, and he's stubborn, so probably not. But is he going to get to the spot where he just gets frustrated and he's like, all right, you know what, this isn't for me anymore. Let me go. It wouldn't be that late. Like it would be one of those things that would come soon. And it's why we talked about on our emergency pod yesterday, making these moves that he made doesn't signal that he's looking to leave or looking to retire in a month.
Yeah. That's the part you have to keep in mind. This isn't some distant thing. If Gus decides to hang it up, that's a decision literally coming in like 4 or 5 weeks, most likely, is when that would happen.
We'll see, like 30 days.
We're
like
here,
the season, last game of the season is, I think, was it November 29th.
Yeah.
So it would be like November 30th, December 1st, something like that. And yeah, I don't know. So it is going to be weird to see, like, assuming he's still around, what does that look like? What are you trying to pitch? What is even his pitch to the fan base? Like,
yeah,
he's going to call the season a failure because it has been. But after you did everything you did last offseason, what's your plan this offseason? Like, I just don't know.
I think we've reached the point, and I cannot wait because what's going to happen is UCF is going to inexplicably win 3 of these last 4 since they're playing pretty bad teams and go to a bowl, and Gus is going to be like, it worked, and then be emboldened to come back next year. But I don't know. I'm not seeing an argument at this point where it's anything but in the best interest of the program for Gus to not be here next year. And this isn't some angry fan take of, I don't like them and we lost games. It's just cold, hard facts. The momentum is gone. The interest is gone. It's not going to come back with another offseason with this coaching staff. Now you can recoup more donations from boosters and that fan interest. If this is 2025 is going to suck no matter what, I think we're clear on that now. But if it's if it's a building year of a new staff and a new era, fans buy that. They get excited for that. Boosters pony up money for that. If it's year 5 of this flailing Malzahn era where nothing's going according to plan, no one's interested. You're going to start seeing empty stadiums next year. Season tickets are going to decline. Boosters aren't going to want to give money. It's like this is a tailspin. And I'm genuinely trying really hard to see the roadmap to how Malzahn pulls out of it. And I just don't see it. I just don't see how this is anything more at this point than just waiting to see when this era ends, whether it's in a month or a year from now.
I have 2 or 3 things on that before we move on to our next thing. I'm probably going to forget at least one of them before we get through it. But like you said, like next year is going to be bad, right?
Yes.
If Gus is still here, it's going to be bad. You know, the one glimmer of hope that you have for next year is getting a bounce from getting a new coach. Like if Gus does leave and they get another coach, like we've seen it with Indiana this year. We see it around college football a little bit more these days with the portal and just with, how things work. So that's probably your best shot at doing anything, fun next year.
And on that note, just really quickly, that is like with Indiana and James Madison, what's happening now too, which could be an option for UCF, is if you hire a G5 coach, it sucks for the G5 school, but they typically bring the best parts of their roster with them now. And that could be like an immediate talent infusion to get the team better, which is not coming without that, obviously.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say was just on the excitement standpoint, like it's no secret to anyone that I love UCF. I have a podcast that we're 200 and probably with all the emergencies and all those, we're probably 250, 260 episodes in. And I thought about the other day, I was like, what reason do I have to renew my season tickets next year, especially if they end up trying to, raise prices again, which I don't know. I just feel like is something they might try to do. And I'm like, maybe I've been a couple of circumstances have kept me from a couple of games this year, but it's like, maybe next year I do. I'm not going to be in that mood where I'm like, yeah, let me drive 6 times a year, 6 times this 3-month period to go to a game because there's nothing to be excited about with this team. It's fun to hang out with my friends. It's fun to hang out with you, but like going to the actual games itself, like this past Saturday against BYU, it was just like, I can't wait till this game is over. And I don't like, so do I want to do that again next year? Like so just one person, like from the excitement standpoint, the only way I'm going to go into next year feeling like, all right, let's see how things go is 1, a new coach, or 2, like I mentioned to you, I think it might've been yesterday, maybe it was after the BYU game, but it was, if somehow Gus sees the light and says, okay, hands off, I'm hiring a young, innovative offensive coordinator who is going to run, but it's not going to happen.
It's not
That's what I'm
going to
saying. You shake your head. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if it did, that would be the only other way I could be like, I could sell it to myself. And that wouldn't sell it to everyone either, because some people would just be like, that's not going to work, or that's not going to happen. So.
That's like me throwing my hands up and saying, okay, I'm going to stop eating chicken Alfredo. It's just not going to happen. It's just not something that's on the table. And it is interesting that you say that, and that makes me sad that your interest has declined so severely. But you know what? I don't blame you, because this is bleak as hell. And we've talked about before, UCF is quite literally in my blood. My dad went to UCF before I did. I grew up with this. Like I don't have memories of getting into UCF. It was just one of those things that was like just present in your life as far as your memory goes back, like air, like it's just there. Mm-hmm. And this BYU game, I'm sitting there in the press box, and I'm like, if I wasn't covering this thing, I'm sure I would have left during the third quarter, because it was just awful. And I even said to you, because because obviously we drove together because you were staying with me, and I got out of the stadium and I said, I'm so sorry to stay there for that. Like it just, I mean, and this is how and we're the diehards. We're here doing the podcast. If you're listening to this, you're the diehards too. How do you think the stadium isn't filled with 45,000 diehards? If you're a casual UCF fan, the only thing you've seen them do in that stadium this year is lose, unless you were at the 2 fake games to start the year, which no one cares about. And it's just, what's the pitch? They're not fun. They're not fun. And it's everything you just said is that we kind of talked about a little bit how Gus got a bit of a break after what was a really bad 2022 season because they won 9 games. It wasn't really, really bad, but they did not meet expectations, and the clock reset right when they got to the Big 12. Now it's year 1 in the Big 12. It's kind of the only way you keep the fan base here where it's at now is if the clock resets again, because now it's a new staff and a new era. A continuation of this, it's not interesting to anyone, and it's destined for more failure. That Gus isn't pulling out of this. There's no way. He doesn't even have to. With resources, he was not able to put together anything better than a losing team, a team that's literally going to finish with a losing record. And next year, with resources constrained even more, and with all your top players leaving, how are you going to talk into it being anything else but just another losing season?
And that's where it gets even sadder, I think. And I told you I had 3 things, and I was probably going to forget one. I forgot it and then remembered it. That's good. A good thing to do. It's something you and I were texting about earlier, and it's just and I told you, I think the window is closed on it, is UCF's relevance. Like so much of it, and even in recent years where like they haven't kind of been what they were in 17, 18, 19. But so much of it in recent years was, Gus Malzahn's really doing some things down in Orlando. And now that has completely flipped to what the hell is going on in Orlando. Gus Malzahn's days might be numbered. And so that last little bit of relevance we've had nationally, which really for some reason was still built on Gus of 2020 or 2011, 2012, 2010, that's gone now too. So it's like, I feel like UCF is very much just another program now, and the newness of the Big 12 is wearing off, and it's sad. Like it's sad for, especially like I'm being a student during that run in 2017, 2018, like that's my top memories of this program. And it's just gone further and further downhill in recent years, and I'm ready to see it swing back up, and I don't think it happens under Gus. Yeah.
I mean, I am genuinely worried about the fan base, to be honest, because the fan base, it's no secret that it grew in size a lot following 2017. It became, UCF has always done well fan base-wise. They've always had a large fan base, but that kind of took UCF to the next level. I mean, they became that really was like the gateway for casual fans to get really interested. And this current state of things, like these last couple weeks, are the first time literally since the 2017-2018 run where it just feels totally over. Like there's no, next year this or that. Like it just feels done. And I know it's not done forever. I'm not here telling you UCF's never going to have another good season again. That's obviously not true. But that they can still become the things they want to become, just not in the short term at this point. But I worry about the fan base staying as strong as it is now, because you do lose those people when there's just no hope left. And it's crazy to me how quickly things flip in college football, because like a month ago, I was in the bounce house for UCF is on Fox, Big Noon. They just hosted Big Noon kickoff. The crowd was insane. They couldn't have said enough good things about the crowd. It was the biggest in the history of Big Noon kickoff. It was just this incredible, incredible thing. And I get in the stadium. It's loud. It's the press box. The tower is literally shaking the most it's ever shaken for a game I've covered. I was terrified. I thought I was going to die. And UCF picks off Shedeur Sanders, and suddenly UCF's right in front of the end zone. And in that moment, it was like, we've arrived. We're here. Everything is possible. And a month later, it's just over. I'm watching a stadium that's not even a not full stadium, mostly taken over by BYU fans, that empties out during the third quarter. I'm watching UCF lose game after game. Students chanting to fire Gus. It's just the rapidity. Is that a word? Just how rapid everything might not be. Just how rapidly everything completely and totally combusted and fell apart is just. And honestly, this was getting built up for a while. There were issues. We knew that, and I guess we were just kind of able to hide from them. And now you can't. And it's just. It's very cool that we just did 30 minutes of a 1 hour podcast on like a mini topic, but I was going to say this started with recruiting talk, and it's turned into philosophical musings on UCF's future and whether or not they're relevant. They're not. But yeah,
need to be talked about, but we can move on if you want. I've got a couple more things to look at, especially, the very immediate future. On Saturday, they play Arizona. First topic before we get into the Arizona preview, who should start at quarterback against Arizona?
KJ Jefferson.
No.
It was a joke.
Okay. I figured it was, but I was just going to shut down the joke. We talked about it.
Did you just say no? Was that your response?
Yeah. I just said no.
It's great podcasting.
I just think EJ Colson, why not give people something to hang on to? I don't know. That's sad that you're like, all right, let's just like our hopes of having fun are hinging on the 17-year-old quarterback. But no, like I can't imagine anything. I mean, it is the space game, so I guess there's that excitement, that element of excitement to it.
Yes.
But other than the space game and the space uniforms, and I'm watching RJ Harvey play football because we're running out of time to watch him in a UCF uniform. Other than all that, what are we looking forward to on Saturday? And
I mean, this is my favorite day. I'm just going to watch the uniforms. I don't really care what happens.
You're just going to watch the uniforms. Like the players are going to be doing stuff, but you're not really going to be like kind of fully grasping what's happening on the field. You're just going to be like, your eyes are just going to follow like different.
I'm just going to be like, wow, the jersey with the number 7 on it just moved really fast. That was crazy. And that's going to be like my game experience.
Yeah.
I have to say a couple things here really quickly. The first is that, again, if we're like, I feel like I need to now, and for every segment, make clear that there's always a funny one. The funniest one is Dylan Risk, just because then it would be 4 starting quarterbacks in 1 year, which I just think is fantastic. Probably a record for UCF, I'd have to think. Maybe 2015? I don't know. I have to go back. It has to be record. 4. Come on. I also have to say, my reaction to Dylan Risk's 2 drives on our emergency podcast ended up not really being in line with everyone else's reactions. And to just recap really quickly, everyone else's reaction was he should start because he threw the ball. And my reaction was that is not a powerful quarterback. And I swear I did. I actually hate myself. I swear I did not do that intentionally.
It's only something I would do just to piss you off.
I should do it at risk of sounding like an idiot. I think I'm right still. And, I absolutely think there's a chance he starts on Saturday because I think they're just at that point where crazy things might happen. But I want to defend my take because I feel like I did not back it up well on that podcast because I was tired and also surprised when he didn't agree because we usually agree and I got scared and led the conversation. But I could totally be wrong. Maybe I'm totally wrong. And I honestly do think that a little bit of this is I'm kind of letting what I've heard about him over the last year influence maybe what I really saw. I think I went in with preconceived notions of I've heard he's not good, so I'm expecting to not see him be good. But I think it's easier than you think when you are a quarterback that an opposing team does not have tape on late in a game that's already over and where they don't even have all their starters out there anymore to come in and look good. I think it's made even easier when you are playing in front of a fan base who is so starved for basic passing that you were just completing routine throws to open guys and fans are like, whoa, we might have something here. And the other thing I remind you that is, who else looked good when he got out there against a team that had no tape on him? Jakari Brown. And we came on this podcast and said, wow, UCF has something with him. He looked good. And then it took
he never
one
looked
game
good
of tape.
Throwing the ball, though.
Did Dylan Risk look good running the ball?
No, throwing the ball.
But okay, but I'm saying it's the same thing. It's like it's like they have different skills and they do different things. And my other big issue with Dylan Risk and why I honestly don't know if he's a viable starter, and you kind of brushed me off, is he looked gassed as hell.
That was just something I brushed you off because I couldn't tell because I'm up.
Oh no, he was like panting, did not look like he could go on, and I that's unfortunate. I don't know how you condition
Anthony Richardson did the same thing in the NFL game this Sunday.
Anthony Richardson just got benched.
I know.
It's a great example, but so I just wanted to say that I understand why it's always great. I've seen this in all my years around UCF. It's always great when things are going bad to say I liked that backup quarterback. He should be the guy. We just did this with Jakari. So if Dylan Risk does get the starting job, cool. It's funny. I'm going to laugh. I don't think he's going to show anything where we're like, wow, it turns out that the 4th string quarterback to start the year is the guy who should have been starting this whole time. He might play well against Arizona, just like Jakari did in his first game where there was no tape on him. And again, that probably helps Arizona because they're sitting here. I would be shocked if it's not one of EJ or Risk. And if you're Arizona and you have to prepare for quarterbacks who have a combined 4 drives of tape, that's not ideal. So he might have a good game, but he's not the answer. I just can't. No. I don't know. I just don't see it.
I don't think I at any point said he was the answer. I just thought that
Twitter
was the best semblance of a passing game that we've seen. And when you said, yeah, sure, but did he look like he could run? Like I said, Jakari couldn't throw when he came in, and then you said, well, they have different skill sets. Well, go back to what I said like 2 years ago. Why can't we just have a quarterback that can throw the ball? Like why do we have to have this JRP type quarterback? Can't we just have a quarterback that you said he hits open receivers? Cool. I wish any of the other guys could also hit open receivers and run, but we have good running backs. And if I need to pick between one or the other, let's get a little bit of a passing game in there. I don't think he's a long-term answer, but I wouldn't mind seeing him play because it seems like he has a little bit more of that ability to find the open guy and hit the open guy. But saying all that, I'd rather EJ start because I do think there's a chance that he's the long-term answer. So it really doesn't matter one way or the other. I guess we'll have, if Dylan Risk starts, we'll have more of a chance for both of us to see, like, all right, who's right here, but just like get more of an actual look at him than just a few drives at the end of a blowout game against a team with no tape. But EJ should start. If we're willing to burn the red shirt, then he should start.
Is this my villain arc? Because honestly, who Risk reminded me of was Mikey Keene, and I'm like, don't put him out there. He shouldn't be there. We need a guy who.
I'd have to go back and look. I feel like very, very early on, you had proclaimed that you were going to be a Dylan Risk guy.
Okay, so that's what makes this extra funny, and it's how I've been brainwashed. Is I was a big Dylan Risk guy. I liked him a lot, and I probably liked him because he reminded me of Mikey Keene. And he had that Mikey Keene air of like when he scrambled, it was like in the mode of like, oh my God, no, like the whole time, like just fear is powering him to the first down. But I feel like I've just been unfortunately brainwashed a little bit by we didn't hear good stuff about him from fall camp or spring camp. And I think that colored where I'm at.
Are we hearing that from Gus Malzahn, the genius of quarterbacks?
Listen, might be something to that right there, but and listen, let me totally say, if he ends up being great and like starts multiple games and leads UCF to wins, I will come on this podcast and say I'm an idiot. I'm comfortable.
You know who else you doubted in 2016, 2017?
Don't go there. No, we didn't have a podcast then, so no one knows what my thoughts.
I think we've talked about it on the
easily
podcast.
Read on our website. I did not think Milton was a good idea in 2017. In my defense, we just done 2016, and you all booed him off the field. I didn't boo him.
I did not boo him off the field. Don't you all me?
You were in the stadium. Of course you didn't boo him.
Yes, I was in the stadium.
You were at that game?
Yes.
Oh, we weren't friends yet. Okay.
No.
Either way,
at that game.
I was a big Noah Vedral guy going in 2017, and I was hopeful that he would get the job. And he had an illustrious career at Nebraska, then Rutgers. I think that was his path at that
illustrious
point,
is a word for it.
But my genuine take is the same as yours, is that regardless of whether Risk is the best option or not, there's no value left of this season. Like we're just waiting for a final record. Risk is not the guy long term. There's no way that's the case. So don't give me that he's earned it crap. It's like EJ's the only one who can rally the fan base around a vision for the future. So just let him out there and see how it goes. I don't know what other path it is.
And with the new whatever, it's still Gus's playbook, but with Tim Harris calling the plays, I'm begging you, Tim Harris, if you're listening to this, which I know you are, if EJ's out there, let him throw the ball. So he started the game against Cincinnati and had 2 or 3 drives. I think he had 4 passing attempts, and his time was cut short because Johnny Richardson fumbled twice. I want to see more. I want to see EJ given a chance to actually run the offense. Not, okay, let's throw him out there for a couple drives. Then let's bring in Dylan. Let's bring in Jakari. I don't want to see all that. Don't do a live audition for the final 3 games in this game. Just let's go with EJ and let's see what happens.
That says a lot about how Cincinnati probably isn't that good this year, that UCF used their game as a quarterback audition, where it genuinely felt like UCF was less focused on winning the game than just let's just see who works, and then only lost by 6. And I'm forever be mad about that because they probably win that game if they just started KJ.
We talked about that. They would have beaten Cincinnati with KJ, I think.
Genuinely so funny. But I don't know what's left in these last 4 games than just get EJ some practice. And if you're listening to this right now going, no, we have to maintain his eligibility, I have news for you, random listener who has not been paying attention to college football for the last 3 or 4 years. The era of your starting quarterback being the same guy for 4 years is over and done with and never coming back. Do not worry about burning the year of eligibility. There's never a reality where EJ redshirts then starts from 2025 through 2028 or whatever. That's never happening. So just don't let that go. Let that go.
We're robbing his future team of another year.
That's how you have to look. That just generally have to look at it is don't be mad for you. Don't be sad for UCF. Be sad for whichever group of 5 or P4 team he will call home after he leaves UCF for not having that extra year. Because that's how that plays out now.
I don't think I need to say it, but I hope that doesn't happen. I would like to see him do that, but I would like to see him stay forever. But
do you ever think about how few quarterbacks have finished their careers at UCF in the last 5 years?
I don't think about it often, but now that you say that, it's very true.
John Rice Plumlee.
Well, but he didn't start. What? So what about start to finish?
I'm just talking a quarterback who walks out on the field with his parents on senior day at UCF.
Yeah, I guess John Rice Plumlee and
Gabriel transferred, Milton transferred, Mac transferred, Mikey Keene transferred, Tommy Castellanos transferred. Literally John Rice Plumlee. Timmy McClain transferred. Literally John Rice Plumlee.
Wow. Before that, who? Justin Holman?
Well, yeah, it used to happen all the time before Justin.
I know, but
Holman,
I think it would have been
a different
back to
time.
Justin Holman. Oh yeah, yeah. Hopefully they roll with EJ. We'll see. Again, it's one of those things that I think they're not. I mean, we might hear rumblings of it on Saturday morning, but I have a feeling that they're really going to keep this close to the vest because that's how that Gus thinks it's that necessary. Like, oh, we're really going to have an advantage here. Like, I don't think it's not going to matter. And they could find out. They could find out right now. They could find out right now who's starting, and I don't think it changes much on Saturday. But
I was going to say, like, if Gus called Arizona's head coach and said, I'm starting Risk, he would go like, okay, like, there's nothing we can do about that. We know nothing about him, but good to know. Like,
all right, cool. Let's pull up his Cardinal Gibbons tape and then look at that to see what.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
It should be EJ, which is making me feel more like it's going to be Risk, because when has what's supposed to happen ever happened these last couple seasons?
Never. All right.
Are we ready for when Ja'Carri Brown starts? Like, are we prepared for that?
Yeah, we just did that entire conversation. I think you said Ja'Carri Brown's name once.
He's not going to start.
I don't think it's over.
Yeah.
KJ Jefferson starts. What if he does? Say, all right, season's lost, and we'll have some fun.
Can I say a thing about KJ really quickly? Because why actually do the podcast when we can just keep derailing it? I've watched him a lot on the sidelines, like just keeping an eye on him. I don't know why, just because it's interesting. It's a strange dynamic. And like, he's always like, he's helping the coaches. He's like hyping guys up. Like, it's like, he has no reason to be nice to anyone on this team. Like, he showed up and immediately got scapegoated. And I don't know. I've liked seeing that. It's made me think more of him, because I certainly would not be behaving like that if I were in his situation.
I think so. And it's funny because, like, we've talked about it a little bit, and I've given you, like, there's obviously this cynical view of it, which I've taken at times, where it's like, he got his money either way, he's fine. But I think there's still, it's like, you could say he's got his money either way, and he could have walked away. He could have left the team. But he has. I remember the very first instance of it was after Johnny Richardson was fumbling in that game against Cincinnati. It was KJ over there who had his arm around him and was talking to him. And he's hyping up the other quarterbacks. He's doing all this stuff. So yeah, it is. It's nice to see. And it's one of those things that I don't think everybody reacts that way. So it does feel.
One thing I think I really differ from on the general fan base, and I think this is not just a UCF fan thing, but most college football fans, is I'm so unmoved by the, like, well, they were getting paid this amount, whatever. It's like I just watched Ted Roof get paid $1.1 million to not do a job. Like, I like literally get a check for that to leave. And I don't know. It's like, that's just such a thing in college football. And part of it is, for me, it's like, I don't put any onus on the player when, oh, well, they were paid this amount, they didn't perform. It's like, man, school agreed to give him that. That's more my take is UCF he was worth that money. Like, if someone wanted to offer me a bunch of money for something I'm probably not going to be good at, I'm going to take it and then not be good at that. And you probably would too.
Oh yeah, there's no blame on him or anything. I'm not trying to blame him for anything at all.
I know you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you talk about, like, that comment is a comment a lot of fans were making at the time as well. You know, he needs to be earning his money or whatever. It's like, not really. UCF decided to give it to him. Yeah. That was their decision.
But I think that also could be like, he's like, fine, I'm getting paid and I'm going to be a good teammate. I'm having fun just being around the guys and doing what I can to help the team because they don't want to play me anymore. And
yeah, I would personally ask for my Kingdom contract and determine what the bare absolute minimum is required of me once I was benched, and do not one shred over that. But maybe that's just a window into me more than anything.
Do I have to show up to meetings? Do I have to practice? Do I have to be there on games, or can I go to other games?
So I have to show up at the meetings. Can I go to other games? KJ's in the stands at like USF or something.
Yeah.
While UCF's playing.
Just like, let me go watch something.
KJ's in the cabana.
That would actually be a very funny visual. That'd be great.
He would be like, I'm looking for the guys who paid for me. Like, where are you?
We should probably do the Arizona preview, even though we're running a little short on time.
All right, speed round. Let's do it.
Yeah, we can do a speed round version of this. Yeah, they're not good.
Nope.
UCF's also not good. So it's like, I don't know. Battle of Mid, Part 2. Although I guess, I don't know. Battle of Mid, Part 1 was what, Cincinnati? And I think Cincinnati might be a little better than Mid.
Yeah.
So this might be the real Battle of Mid. But
there's actually striking similarities between these teams because they both came into the year thinking they were going to contend for the Big 12 title. Now, UCF fans never should have been thinking that, but they still were both thinking it. And they're both on losing. I didn't think it. You
thought they'd be in the mix.
I thought they'd go 8-4. I was pretty firm. Yeah. I was hopeful they could get to like early November still like in it. And I didn't realize they couldn't even get to early October still in it. But you know, what can you do? Arizona, they're just like UCF. They're 3-5. They have one Big 12 win. They've lost 4 straight. they're kind of listless right now. It's very similar to UCF. The difference, of course, being this is year one of a coaching staff, so they're still trying to build off of things here. But they're in the same situation where they have two really good guys, and Noah Fafita and the wide receiver whose name I can't say, who's probably going to the NFL, who two old senior players who are really good, who the fan base feels like they're kind of wasting. Like I said, there's a lot of weird similarities here between these teams. It's just sadness on all sides.
Yeah, so UCF's lost 5 in a row after starting 3-0. Arizona's lost 4 in a row. You mentioned this to me. They haven't scored 30 points since August, which was week 1.
Yes,
against an FCS team. New Mexico.
Not an FCS team. I apologize. Against
not an FCS
team. 5 team. Yep.
61-39 win over New Mexico, and then Northern Arizona they beat 22-10. So maybe that should have been the first signal of that's weird. And then they lost 31-7 to Kansas State. So things went downhill pretty quickly after that. They did beat. Well, I don't know. So they did beat Utah, but Utah is also not good. So
you know who else just beat Utah?
No, I don't remember.
Houston.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God.
I think Utah's just really bad. We're about to find out. We're about to find out. Again, Houston, first year of a new coaching staff. It's okay for them.
Yeah. But for UCF, this is what's at stake. They're trying to avoid a 6-game losing streak, which would be their 5th ever and only 2nd ever in a non-winless season. They went,
I believe, also only their 3rd ever at the FBS level, even, right?
Yeah. They went winless in 82. They lost 7 straight at one point in 85, and then they also went winless in 04 and 2015.
Yes.
So yeah, they don't do this, and they
very
well might.
Historically bad is where we're at if they lose this game. And on top of all of that, they are at the biggest risk they've ever been of ruining the perfect space game record, which is actually I know for some people that's just a whatever thing. I think that would genuinely be my final straw with the staff if that happened.
Do you think they were more at risk last year? You'd think, right?
No, I didn't think they were going to win last year. We did a preview where I was like, that's too bad the space game streak is over. I think, the stakes are bigger this year because after last year, everyone believes with all their heart that there is magic there and that they can't lose that game. And B, last year's team was a mid-level team in the Big 12. This year's team sucks. So it's that's the difference.
So bizarre.
This year's team also quite literally just has no idea who their quarterback is. They might start their 4th string quarterback on Saturday. This is absolutely the most at risk they've been, even though it's not the best team they've played for the space game.
Find an extra year of eligibility for John Plumlee.
I cannot believe we were in the situation where I'm just give me John Rice Plumlee back. Please. They might have been able to scrape together a season here if he'd been here. That's how far things
7-0 in space games right now.
Yeah.
I would like
every win by double digits as well. All of them.
Yeah, and they also historically have just been scoring their most points in the season in that game. So I guess they have to beat. I don't know what they have to outside of the fake games. What do they have to beat? 31 at TCU,
Iowa State, maybe.
Iowa State. Yeah. I was going to make a joke until I remembered those games, but I was like, what? Oh, score their most points of the year, and that means they need to score 18 points. But yeah, no, they need to win this game simply for that reason. I've said before, I don't care. I would probably rather not watch this team in a 13th game this season. I don't really even need to see them go to a bowl. It'd be nice for the streak, whatever. But the space game streak is what I actually care about more than the.
No, it genuinely is because that is something that is genuinely kind of special about that game. I mean, it was sort of a joke in the first few years, but it has become a thing where it's they're 7 years into this and they have never even come close to losing one, and that is cool. And I know it's going to end eventually. I'm not sitting here. I don't believe that the 2040s will be upon us and UCF will still never lost a space game, but it would just be the perfect cherry on top for what a complete disaster of a year this has been for that to happen. Yeah. Particularly for it to come against another pretty bad team. A team that has allowed 30-plus points in 3 straight games and is 75th in run defense.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, this is a way lighter version than I think Colorado, because we talked about Colorado coming into it, how they had Shedeur Sanders and they had Travis Hunter, and that was right. We said that was pretty much it. They've got some other talented receivers and some other guys, but this team has really just been Noah Fafita, the quarterback, who actually hasn't had that good of a year.
No,
11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Looking at some of the PFF stuff, he's credited with 12 big-time throws and 12 turnover-worthy plays. So he's kind of just been meh. And then Teteroa McMillan is a monster. He 57 catches, 982 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He's the guy. And with a banged-up secondary, that's scary.
That actually, seriously, if you want to pick how UCF loses the game, it's T-Mac going off, right? I'm calling him T-Mac because I can't say his first name. I'm sorry, I've tried. You have Mac McWilliams missed last game, so did Ladarius Tennyson. Braden Marshall got hurt during the game. We got no concrete or substantial updates this week on any of those guys.
Not that we ever would.
Not that we ever would anyway, but has me worried. I feel like it's unlikely all three are out this week. Tennyson in particular, because he was out with vertigo, so it wasn't like he had some injury he was recovering from. He just wasn't feeling well that day, so hopefully he'll be able to go. But
I don't know how that works. That seems concerning. Like, that's weird.
What, vertigo? My dad gets vertigo.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my dad's not like an athlete in his, athletic prime, so I don't know. I don't know if there's something there. Now, some people just get vertigo. Like I know some people were like, oh my God, what does that mean? I don't think that's like, I saw some Twitter freakouts, but I could be totally wrong. I don't know why I'm speculating.
I don't know. No idea. I'm not.
But anyway, the point I was just making was that, as far as if you want to see how UCF loses this game, it is that the secondary is just really thin and Arizona's offense goes off. An offense that hasn't scored at all this year, but we know better than to think UCF's going to keep that trend going.
Which is funny because I mentioned it to you earlier. Like their next closest receiver to McMillan is their running back. Well, in terms of receptions, is their running back Quali Conley, who has 27 catches. The next closest in yards is their tight end, and he has 217 yards
really
compared to 952. Like, this guy is their offense, and I still think that him being their offense could beat UCF.
Yeah.
I don't know. He really is, because like they have they're top four, they're 40th in passing offense, and it is basically mostly McMillan. Yeah. That's crazy to me.
It is. It's a two-man show. Much more so than Colorado.
He draws comparisons to Mike Evans, which is like, I mean, that's obviously he's not there yet in the NFL, but body-wise, like he's a very big receiver, and I'm not sure. I'll be very stunned if we're sitting really close shoulder to shoulder on Saturday after the game talking about how they shut him down completely. I'll be very surprised.
So it's so funny you say that, because my initial reaction when seeing these stats was to say, okay, so they've got one receiver. Just do whatever you have to do. Focus on him, lock him down. I'm sure that UCF's not the first team that's thought of that this year, and it hasn't happened. So, I'm guessing, I hope to be wrong. I'm guessing UCF's not really going to find a way to contain him. Now, the one wrinkle in this is that we've talked so much about how the problem this year, throughout the year, that's gotten a little bit better has been, getting pressure on the quarterback. And one wrinkle there is that Dalen Dotson's now playing where he should have been playing all year, and is playing very well. So maybe this is a situation where if they can work to try to take T-Mac out of the game, and they can really pester Fafita, who's been mistake prone this year, and maybe you do shut him down.
I'm really curious now, though, because like this is obviously the first week back in charge fully of the defense for Addison Williams. And it's like, hey, Addison, I know you're the secondary guy. You've got to figure out this McMillan guy. He's gigantic and he's killing everyone. Good luck, bud. Like, that's pretty much what you just did.
Have fun with that,
man. But yeah, I mean, I hope they can figure out something. As long as they don't, I don't know what they need to not let him go for like 250 and 3 touchdowns. Like he's probably gonna
need to. They might.
Yeah. But there's like he's going to score. He's going to probably make some big plays. But as long as he doesn't have a monster game, you would feel like, okay, you can handle the rest a little bit. But there also is that thing where, like, I don't know, it was early in the season, but I don't know. I have to check the stats after the fact. But there was that one receiver on TCU that we came into the game not thinking he was like the big one, and he just ate them alive. So
I think he was like their third string receiver or something like that.
Any of these receivers or tight ends for Arizona could end up finding holes in this UCF defense and having a monster game. So
and honestly, this is previewing the games is always hard anyway, but there's just so many question marks around UCF right now. I don't even know how to go about previewing what UCF's offense is going to look like, because we don't know who the quarterback is going to be. We don't know if Kobe Hudson's even going to play. It's like, I don't know it's just kind of a mystery, which I think is an advantage in some ways, because Arizona's not able to prep any better than we are. Like, they don't know what the hell's going on either. So we'll see, but I don't know. If they can't win this one, I think,
are they going to go 3-9?
That's what I was going to say. And it sounds bad, but man, if they can't win this one, because it's a couple things. It's one is that, like, this is probably the easiest team they have left. Utah is in a spiral without Cam Rising, but they still have a lot of talent. West Virginia has been more up and down than flat out bad. Arizona State's not bad at all. This is probably it. And it's both just the straight up competitive aspect and the mental aspect. It's not just this is the easiest game they have left. If they lose this one to another team that's also in a spiral of the season, at what point do guys just let go of this season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it might already be happening a little bit already, but man, I just losing 6 in a row into another bad team at home for your space game. I don't know. I just, at that point, I wonder if you do see guys you see the effort start to diminish. You've had coaches fired, things are reshuffling. It just sort of season just goes numb, you know?
Yeah. And it's happened for the fan base. I'm sure at some point it sets in for the players too. And you just hope it hasn't happened yet and hope that they can pull this one out. A couple more little things to note. They have only allowed 9 sacks in 8 games. So this is a pretty good offensive line. Very good pass blocking offensive line. Pretty good run blocking, but just better pass blocking. I was looking at third down numbers for both these teams. Both these teams are pretty bad on third down on both sides of the ball. Offensively for Arizona, they are converting 38% of third downs, which is 90th in the country. UCF's offense is converting 41%, which is 61st in the country. But defensively, Arizona ranks 93rd. I tweeted this out earlier. UCF ranks 106th. So
nice.
I don't know. As like these offenses aren't scoring points, but also these defenses can't get off the field. So
yeah,
something's got to give. I don't really know what, but I don't know. And this is also a defense, like I think you mentioned it a few minutes ago. They've given up 30-plus points in 3 straight games. They're allowing 150 rushing yards a game, which honestly, like it ranks them pretty low. 150 in college doesn't seem like a lot of yards on the ground.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I could see UCF, like if a good day for UCF has been like 300,
right?
270, 300. So I don't know. I don't know how to predict this.
I mean, the hope is that whether it is EJ or Risk, you have a quarterback who should be able to open things up through the passing game better than Jakari did. You hope. I mean, I just feel like you just lean on Harvey and you just hope he has a big day. Do you want to? I don't know if you have this in your notes or not because it was a conversation we had, but I just was reminded of it with the running backs. Where's Penny Boone?
Hey, it's so funny you just phrased it in the last minute. You just said lean on Harvey because in my notes I have lean on Harvey, comma, where is Penny?
Literally what made me think of it is I said lean on Harvey and I was about to say and the other running backs and I thought, oh, right, they've gotten rid of them all. Where is Penny Boone?
I don't know.
Where is he, baby?
I don't know. I haven't seen if he's on the side. Like it's not one of the things. Like I don't think he's gotten into a game since Florida. From what I was looking at earlier, as far as like the snap counts and stuff at PFF, like he has not been credited with any snaps or anything since Florida, which was about a month ago now. So
that's very weird. I don't know. It's secret opt out. I don't know. That's very, very, very odd. The only public mention we have of this was a few games ago. Gus got asked where Penny Boone was after he didn't play for a game or two, and Gus looked perplexed at the question and literally just goes, "Well, Miles was back from injury." So we played Miles, and I'm like, okay, well,
hasn't in last game. I don't remember seeing Miles out there that much either.
It feels like Miles reps are, but part of me is like, where are the reps going? RJ Harvey only got 16 carries last game. I guess the offense just wasn't really on the field. Yeah, I guess I literally came to the answer as I said it out loud.
Yeah, no, it hasn't been good. I don't know. I wrote down a score prediction. I don't know how to predict this without knowing the quarterback, without knowing what how Addison Williams is going to call this defense any differently than Ted Roof, how Tim Harris is going to call the plays. I don't know. I leaned into the space game magic, and I went with a UCF win, partly because, I don't know, predicting another loss just felt too sad, and I'll deal with the sadness on Saturday if it comes to that. But I went UCF 27, Arizona 23. It just doesn't – I don't know. Neither team scores that many points. Defenses aren't that good, but I don't know. This sucks.
Yeah. I went UCF 31, Arizona 21. I'm predicting a win because I simply cannot stomach the alternative, and I refuse to even say the words UCF is going to lose the space game, but I have no faith. UCF's favored again because why not just keep having UCF favored in every
by
game?
6.5 points.
Makes no sense. I mean, literally, what games have they not been favored in this year? Just Iowa State?
It feels that way. Were they favored? Yeah, they were favored at TCU, right?
Yeah. They didn't open as favorites at Florida, but swung to favorites, if I remember right.
They were weren't they 18-point favorites against Colorado or something
stupid like Vegas, that? Yeah, they were 11.5, I think. Or they got up to something like that. Did Vegas just unlock a cheat code where if UCF's favored, people put money on them, and Vegas was like, they're this dumb, we'll just keep doing it until people stop. I mean, I don't know what's going on. It's so strange.
I don't know. I've been fading them every week, and I've been raking in the money because of it. So. It also it protects me a little bit because when UCF loses, I'm sad, but hey, at least I can get some money out of it.
No, I think fading your favorite team is always good because it's exactly what you just said. You can win either way.
Yeah. Cool. All right, we got through a lot there. We'll really quickly get through the rest of this. Football news is just that TV exercised the 6-day window for UCF Arizona State, both the kickoff time and the network, though it's looking like it won't be in the 10 o'clock window, which I am praising the Lord for, because I did not want to have to do a late podcast at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, the same day as a 1 o'clock Bucks game as well. So yeah, no 10 o'clock it's looking like, so that's nice. Game of the week, UCF men's soccer, 5-5-3, 3-4 in the Sun Belt. They are hosting South Carolina on Friday. South Carolina is 9-3-2. They're 4-3 in the Sun Belt. So as good as their record overall looks, if UCF can win this game, they'll be right even with them. And right now, UCF's kind of in the middle of the Sun Belt. A win would kind of maybe put them up into, I want to say, third or fourth as the tournament approaches. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. That's Friday at 7 o'clock at home. Now, tweet of the week.
Tweet of the week. This is, again, one of my preemptive tweet of the weeks where I'm handing it out before it's been tweeted. To those of you, if UCF is unfortunate enough to lose its first ever space game, to those of you losers who are then going to decide these uniforms suck and are the worst space uniforms ever because you have small brains and can't comprehend that the design of a uniform is separate from what happens when it is worn, you get tweet of the week. I don't like you if you are that person. And I know you're going to be out there, and that's going to be the worst part of them losing. But actually, for me, that will genuinely be the worst part of them losing, is these uniforms are cool. I never, ever rank until I've seen them on the field. But gut instinct is I think these are my favorites since 2021 so far. They're very cool uniforms. They're very unique. I love the moon dust gradient. The fact that I can even say moon dust gradient, and when I'm talking about a UCF football uniform, is crazy. And they're going to lose, and you're going to go, I didn't like them. And I think that's lame. So you get tweet of the week, person who's listening to this probably a week from now to see what we said about the game after UCF lost and tweeted something dumb. Congrats.
Sounds like you're talking to Bucks fans and the about the creamsicles.
Oh yeah, because they lost again, didn't they?
Yeah, went through that.
Yeah,
again,
but
so.
it's been quite a few losses in the creamsicles. I can see how that momentum builds over years.
It's been 5 losses, and like 3 of them were in the early 2010s. So
let me ask a question. Yeah. Why do they keep wearing them for games they're probably going to lose?
I wish I knew. I was saying all year long they should, all summer long, that they should plan this game to play the Raiders in December, or play one of the teams, not play a massive divisional game and make it your creamsicle game. I don't know if there's some rule that if there's having some reason that they want to be playing in these games or playing the creamsicle game in October, because last year's was in October against the Lions. Again, a good team. I don't know. I don't understand that. So next year they need to play it against the Panthers, or I don't know. Maybe everyone's right and they shouldn't do it. Oh man, it's been a weekend. I think every team I care about, in any capacity, lost.
Yeah, because Tottenham lost too. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah,
Paolo Banchero had 50 points in the Magic won, so I'm doing great.
Best player in the NBA champions 2024-2025.
All of those things are accurate and true. We're going to start an Orlando Magic podcast just called Podcast of the NBA Champions, and we're going to talk about how great they are after every game.
People are going to be so confused when they search that on Spotify, and it's not just like a broad NBA podcast, or it's not like
I actually don't know Magic. I don't know if there's a team people would less expect that to be a podcast.
Hey, that's going to change. That narrative will change in several months. Which actually, saying several months, that could mean anything. So that's great. All right, we'll get out of here. It's been a time. We did the emergency pod on Monday and the full pod today. So it feels like you and I have talked entirely too much to each other this week. But I will see you personally on Friday before the game on Saturday. But until Saturday's podcast, you can find us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCASimmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. Thank you guys so much for being with us, and we will talk to you on Saturday.
Bye, everybody.